It's week 1
in the NFL.
Welcome to paradise. The Niners began defense of their world championship today. Jerry Rice around the corner and into the end zone, and we're off and running. Good evening, everybody. Live from Studio 7 in Hollywood, California. Welcome to the premiere of the FX Sports Show. I'm Jim Rome.
And I'm Kevin Frazier, and we're delighted to have you with us for our coming out party. And over the next hour, we'll get you caught up on all the day's events.
And to help us out, we've enlisted our friends at Fox Sports. So Pat Summerall, John Madden, Kevin Harlan, Sherry Glanville, and a host of others will be joining us.
Including our pals from the studio show, James Brown, Terry Bradshaw, Jimmy Johnson, and Howie Long, and they'll put their spin on the day in the NFL.
And while you'll be getting all the highlights and scores, we know there are some of you who need every stat you can find. So for you, we've got the FX Sports Show ticker.
Jim, you ready to kick this thing off?
I'm ready.
All right. After a questionable preseason, many were wondering if the 49ers were ready to defend their crown. Heading into the opener in New Orleans, the Niners had concerns with their running game, but with Steve Young to Jerry Rice connection intact, somehow you just know those problems aren't that overwhelming. Young at the helm once again, trying to smooth out the rocky waters. First quarter, no score. Young hits Jerry Rice, and he's older, but he's getting faster. The play covers 50 yards, 7-zip San Francisco. Second quarter, Tim McDonald and the defense step things up. He picks off the pass. This one covers 52 yards, if you're counting. Jim Everett, meanwhile, sorry, Jim, 14-zip San Francisco. Let's jump ahead to the third quarter. More from the Niners. William Floyd from Young, 4 yards on that one, 24-9 at that point. But the Saints rally. Jim Everett looking, finding Quinn Early in the corner, 28 yards, 24-15 San Francisco. Fourth quarter, and they continue to come back. Everett hits Michael Haynes in the end zone, 24-22. Can they come back? Well, Everett goes to Michael Haynes for it all. I hate when that happens. Eric Davis, the nice D. San Francisco's holds on, 24-22, the 7th win in a row versus an NFC West opponent for the Niners. For more on the game, let's head out to Pat Summerall at the Superdome for his insights.
Well, John, the 49ers win by 2. We heard from the Saints, talked to Jim Mora yesterday about the Saints' new, young, aggressive defense and the fact that he feels very confident about the offensive people.
Yeah, I like that aggressive defense. They went from a 3-man line to a 4-man line this year, and I think they're going to be tough, and especially when they play here in the Dome, because you're not only playing that defense, but you're playing that crowd.
And Steve Young of the 49ers got shaken up a bit just before the half, came back after Elvis Grbac took over. How much would the 49ers over a long stretch miss Steve Young?
I don't think they'd be in the Super Bowl without Steve Young. I mean, Steve Young was the MVP in football last year. He was the MVP of the Super Bowl. He's their top player. I mean, he's their leader. They need him. Now, I think if he were to get injured and miss a game or two, I think Elvis Grbac is good enough quarterback with this team that the 49ers could still win. I don't think the 49ers obviously are where they were at the end of last season, but I think as we watch them here at the beginning of the season, I think they're about the same place they were at the beginning of last season.
After all, they won the contest and they are the defending world champions. Now let's go back to the studios in Hollywood.
Thanks, gentlemen. A pleasure to have you with us, offering your insights. We look forward to seeing you next week.
This game pretty much provided exactly what you'd expect from the 49ers. They struggled, but they still found a way to win.
Yeah, and the Saints, as usual, still found a way to lose.
Meanwhile, two teams that we never know what to expect from met up in the Windy City today as the Vikings and Bears played some traditional NFC Central smash mouth ball. Let's check it out. Dave Wanstead's looking to open up his offense, and that's exactly what he did early on. Eric Kramer to Curtis Conway. Speed always wins, especially if you get to the end zone first. 14-14 in that game right now. Little play fake going to the Heisman Trophy winner, right? Wrong. Instead, Keith Jennings into the end zone. Suddenly it's Chicago 21, Minnesota 14 in the third quarter. You knew Rashawn would get his touchdown at some point. He's into the end zone. Chicago 28, Minnesota 14. Big game for Rashawn Salam. Warren Moon tries to rally his team. He can't get it. Wayne Joseph with the pick, and the Chicago Bears end up winning that game going away. The final there in a bloodfest, 31-14 the game. Some notes that you should concern yourself with. Warren Moon tried to have a big game. He couldn't get it done. 247 yards. That was not enough. Chicago's always tough on opening day. They win 11 out of 12. For more, let's go back to Soldier Field. Joe Buck has some details.
Okay, thanks very much, Jim. Well, here in Chicago, as we look back at this game, Tim Green, you look at the offense for the Chicago Bears. What a day. They did everything right, it seems.
Yeah, we've seen the emergence of a fine offense. I think we've seen the birth of a new superstar in the NFL in Rashaan Salaam, and the rebirth of a quarterback in Eric Kramer. No one needed it more than Kramer.
10 from their own 27 for the Bears. Play action. Kramer airs it out. Conway all alone. Curtis Conway. And the Bears have answered here in the first quarter.
Yeah, I think I needed this kind of start, get the season off on the right foot. And what can you say? Team played great. We hung in there and made some plays.
You have to feel good about Eric Kramer, but the Bears have to feel even better about Rashaan Salaam. He is the real thing, and Dave Wannstedt knows it.
Rashawn's only going to get better. I'm very excited what I've seen out of him today. He responded well.
Well, Dave Wannstedt looked like he played 4 quarters. Meanwhile, next week, the Bears will host the Packers on Monday night, and then a brutal start to the schedule for the Minnesota Vikings, the champions of this division a year ago. That was a lot of fun today.
Oh, this is a great way to start out the season. Central Division, the preseason's finally gone. We're into the NFL.
That's all from Chicago. Back to the studios.
Okay, thank you for the recap, guys. It does not get much better than a classic black and blue divisional bloodfest.
And just think, it's only week 1 of the season. Plenty more to come. Plenty more to come from FX, the sports show. Also, we've got much more ahead. Here's what's straight up.
Al Davis has his Raiders back home. But how charged up were the defending AFC champs? It's a new world in Jacksonville as the Jags take center stage. And a new beginning for Rich Brooks and his St. Louis club. But this year, the Pack are looking to put the title back in Titletown. Eric Clemens reports from Foxborough, where a playoff rematch pitted Bledsoe's arm against Belichick's D. And Dan the Man, that and more, is all straight up.
Back in Oakland, Al Davis and his Raiders are looking to recapture their past glory and eliminate their commitment to mediocrity.
And he was just one of the familiar faces in new places today.
That's right. With the 2 expansion teams and the 2 former LA clubs, 4 new teams were playing their first games today.
But the most intriguing was the showdown in Oaktown. Chargers against Mr. Davis's Men in Black. Yes, in the last 13 years, the only thing that has scored in Oakland has been rappers. But today, a chance for the city to put its commitment to hip-hop on the back burner. The Raiders and Chargers, let's go to the Coliseum. The Raider faithful happy because they have someplace else to go besides the record store. That's not Vanilla Ice, that's Al Davis. First quarter, Jeff Hostetler to Tim Brown. 5-yard TD pass. Raiders up 7-zip, but the Chargers come roaring back. Humphreys goes over the middle. Sean Jefferson in the end zone, 39 yards on that play. We're tied at 7. But you knew the Niners. You knew the Raiders were going to keep it going. Jeff gives it to the rookie, Napoleon Kaufman, the 16-yard TD, 17-7 at that point. And the defense. I can read. Pat Swilling, Chester McLaughlin, and Anthony Smith, they all meet and crush Humphreys. Raiders 17-7 win. Big day for Humphreys, 23 for 46, 300 yards, a TD and an interception, but I guess it's all for naught because they lose. A big day also in Jacksonville. First ever home game for the Jags. Lots of fans on hand to see the new stadium, the new team. Chris Chandler in the first quarter connects with Hayward Jeffries in the corner and end zone. Touchdown and no electric slide, thank goodness. 7-zip Houston at that point. Things are not quite as easy for the Jags. Steve Berline, a rough day. That's why Desmond Howard was left unprotected. 7-17 for Berline, 60 yards on the day. Hey, just remember, they're an expansion team. Have a little Jaguar pride. 10-3 the final. You look at the stats, 29 rushes, 101 yards for Brown. Burnell comes on in relief, 15 passes, 36 rushing yards.
And the other expansion team began its history today as the Carolina Panthers were on the road in the Georgia Dome. Dom Capers has prepared his team to win this season, and that certainly was apparent in the early going as the Panthers came charging out of the gate. Dom, the first ever head coach of the Carolina Panthers. And this was the first ever touchdown for the Carolina Panthers. Frank Reich goes to his favorite receiver, Pete Metzelaars, just like Rich Stadium. Carolina 7, Atlanta nothing. Phenomenal. But Jeff George rallies the Falcons back. He finds J.J. Burton in the end zone. You've got to be fired up to be a wide receiver in that offense. You know you're going to get the rock. If you don't believe me, if you don't believe J.J. Burton, go ahead and ask Burt Emanuel. There it is, another 7. Atlanta 20, Carolina 13. That's in the third quarter. But look at this play. Willie Green from Frank Reich. You got to be kidding me. Into the end zone, we have ourselves a ball game. Until overtime. Morton Anderson is bank inside the 70. That's a 35-yard chippy. Give Atlanta the win, 23-20 in overtime. So Carolina was close, but they could not get it done. Heartbreak. There's the story right there. Frank Reich had a couple of touchdown passes. This guy will be dead before the end of the year. He was sacked 9 times in this game. Eric Metcalf was brought in to get his hands on the rock. 158 total yards. Good first game there. How about the St. Louis Rams taking on the Pack? And they're doing it at home. The Rams' first game in St. Louis, Reggie White largely unimpressed. Do you know Isaac Bruce? You better right now. He comes in, he blocks the punt. Special teams off to a great start for the St. Louis Rams. The guy turns around and does it on offense as well. Now he's playing wide receiver, 5 yards from Chris Miller, and St. Louis is up on Green Bay 7-0. I can't believe it. Sterling Sharp is back. Well, no, he's not. But Mark Shimura is. He's into the end zone. 7-7. They're in the third quarter. However, the Rams are right there. Miller back to pass. He finds the former Raider. This guy can fly. Alexander Wright, 30 yards. That is a touchdown. 14-7. St. Louis over Green Bay at that point. Rich Brooks, in his NFL debut, is successful. He gets a win. That is a great win for the Rams over Green Bay, 17-14 the final. The Rams get their first win in their last 8 games. The Packers end up with their first home loss in 11 games. Good first game right there. Right now we go back to Soldier Field, or Lambeau Field, I should say. Kenny Albert with some details for you.
Thanks, Jim. The Rams pick up a victory in their first game as the St. Louis Rams, and Rich Brooks wins his inaugural game as a National Football League head coach. Anthony Munoz, one of the stars for St. Louis this afternoon. Second-year receiver Isaac Bruce blocked a punt, and then one play later found himself all alone in the end zone.
Well, he is a player that Coach Brooks thought could step it up during camp, and he did, not only in camp but in preseason. And today he's really stepped it up with 2 huge plays. Well, on the other hand, the running game did not look too good. They had a lot of concern about it coming into today, and it was a disaster. They benched Jerome Bettis, put Leonard Russell in there. They only had 54 yards rushing.
And Jerome Bettis held to just 4 yards on 7 carries. Now on the Green Bay side, quarterback Brett Favre threw 3 interceptions. And next up for the 0-1 Packers, the Bears in Chicago next Monday night.
Well, the Packers should be happy about the way their defense played. They progressed nicely today. No worries there. If they continue to play that way, they're okay. It's the offense, the mistakes. They're playing a Chicago Bear defense that doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes, so they can not afford to do the same things they did today in order to beat the Bears.
So the final score from Lambeau Field, the Rams over the Packers, 17-14 in the season opener. Now let's go back to Hollywood.
All right, Kenny, I mean, we're just as dumbfounded as you are about the Rams running game.
I mean, if I'm Rich Brooks, I am freaking out about Jerome Bettis. This guy used to run over people like a freight train, but what we saw today tells you a lot about his preseason holdout.
Oh, yeah, and how about the reaction about the Gatorade shower?
Easy, Rich. Get another shirt.
Scary thing. Anyway, while many of the so-called experts figured today's matchup in Foxborough to be a preview of the AFC Championship game, well, I guess that could happen if Dan Marino, or maybe if John Elway, or maybe if Hoss, or maybe if Stan Humphries get hurt. Nonetheless, it was a chance for Bill Belichick to match wits against his good old friend and mentor, Bill Parcells. Eric Clemens has the story from Foxborough.
We saw one you'd come to expect between 2 playoff contenders out here at Foxborough Stadium. The Browns, led by Vinny Testaverde, made the big plays early, but the Patriots made the big plays when they counted most. Vinny Testaverde was masterful in the first half, going 13 of 15 for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns, both to Michael Jackson. This 70-yard catch and run away from Mo Hurst put Cleveland up 7-3, but the duo waited until late in the half to strike again. This time, Testaverde threw it up high, and Jackson outjumped Hurst in the far corner for a 14-6 Browns advantage at the break. Numerous drives into the red zone had produced just 3 field goals for the Patriot offense. But Drew Bledsoe and company finally got it going on their final possession of the game. Sam Gash was left uncovered, and 30 yards later, the Pats were in business. Then Bledsoe found All-Pro tight end Ben Coates, who bulled his way for 9.5 more on a key 3rd down and 10. That set up this 4th down quarterback sneak on which Bledsoe gained an inch more than he needed to keep the drive alive. Rookie Curtis Martin got the most important of his 102 yards on the leap and reach, and just like that, the Pats had a huge victory on opening day.
Parcells always talks about coming through at the end, and picking it up as a team and gathering up for that last punch or that last drive. And that's what he's been coaching us to do, the coaching work today.
When you're playing a good team like Cleveland, a lot of times the game will come down to just that. Just to that much. You win it or you lose it. So fortunately, that inch went our way today.
Well, results are always important, but, as I said, you got to keep it in perspective because there are 15 more games to go, and a lot of things can happen.
So the 17-14 victory, very important to the developing psyche of these young Patriots. They'll be sky high again when the defending division champion Dolphins invade Foxborough Stadium next week. The veteran Browns are disappointed but not devastated by this loss. They'll play their home opener next week against the Buccaneers at Cleveland Stadium. Reporting from Foxborough, I'm Eric Clemens.
Thanks, Eric. Good game. A little revenge for the Pats, and it's got to be a confidence builder for Bill Parcells' team.
Let's say, Kev, when you consider they have Miami and San Francisco still to come the next 2 weeks, that is a huge win.
And what about the rookie? Oh, he looks so strong, Curtis Martin.
The Pats need to take some pressure off of Drew Bledsoe. They need that running game. Martin might be the guy to do it.
Yeah, well, we heard from some of the players in that game. Here's some more locker room reaction as we check out who was on the mic.
Didn't paint a Rembrandt today, but we got an NFL win.
I came from the University of Washington where we averaged like 72,000. But most of the fans up there, they're great fans, don't get me wrong, but most of them are in suit and tie, and they're not crazy like the ones here. It might be the alcohol, though.
And then you see some of the Raiders of old coming in. You start to get a good feel, for what it must have been like.
Now, Los Angeles might not have a football team right now, but both of the former teams from Los Angeles have big wins today. We'll be back on the mic a little bit later on.
Yeah, but first, more games, more highlights, and a lot more information, including the Colts and Bengals at the RCA Dome, where Marshall was running on empty in Indy. Meanwhile, Barry Sanders got his mileage against the Steelers. Was his effort enough? We'll be back. Super Bowl. That said, both began their seasons looking for indications of where they're headed. Rich Kotite, yes, he's starting over. How is he starting? Well, not too well. The AFC's East worst nightmare, a Dolphins running game. Bernie Parmalee scores on a 24-yard run, 7-zip Miami. Still in the second quarter. You knew sooner or later Dan Marino was going to get it going. Looking and finding Irving Fryer for the money, 4 yards out, 14-0 at that point. That's the way it was at the break. In the third quarter, Dolphins up 28-14. Troy Vincent picks off Boomer Esiason. 68 yards later, it's going to be a touchdown no matter who chases them. This game basically just got out of hand. Miami wins big. I mean, big. 52-14, your final, as they blow by the Jets. You see, it's the worst loss since 1986 for the Jets since 1986 when Miami did it 45-3. The Dolphins also most points scored in 18 years. All right, let's move on to a little nighttime action in Denver. The Bills and the Broncos. Mike Shanahan, he also is making his debut. Things a little bit better for him. First quarter, Broncos up 3-zip. Jim Kelly, who do you think he's looking for? Well, of course, Andre Reed, pay dirt, 7-3, Bills lead. Second quarter, Jason Elam nails a 52-yard field goal. 5 field goals for Elam on the day. That ties a Denver Broncos record. Third quarter, Broncos D, look at them. They stop Carwell Gardner before the goal line. That's okay. John Elway and the Broncos, they rally in the fourth quarter, 15-7. He connects with Ed McCaffrey. down to the 8-yard line. That sets up Terrell Davis. He punches it in for his first ever touchdown. Broncos win 22-7. As you see, it's the first loss to the Broncos since 1989. Lowest points ever versus Denver.
The Kingdom, on to the Kingdom, where the Seahawks could not wait for the start of the season. It could not have come any sooner. A devastating offseason has left that team searching for an identity. Well, for the Chiefs, after waiting his entire career, Steve Bono is finally able to establish his identity on this, his first opening day start. I'll tell you the one guy that wants to play some football, Dennis Erickson. He's had a rocky go of it off the field. He's on the sideline. But Bono was the man getting it done on the field. He goes up top to Willie Davis, who says there's not life after Joe. Kansas City 7, Seattle 3. They are early on in the first quarter. But Bono was not done. He's greedy. He finds Davis again, this time 40 yards. You gotta be kidding me. Look at him go up after the ball. 17-3, Kansas City. That's in the second quarter. But Rick Meyer tried to rally back. Derek Thomas is a beast. He comes in, busts Meyer in the mouth. 34-10 at that point. Erickson wanted to get on the football field. If he had known what was waiting for him, he probably wouldn't have shown up. The final in that football game, Seattle gets whacked. 34-10 right there. Kansas City has won an NFL best 6 consecutive opening day wins. Seattle's going the opposite direction. They are 5-15 on opening day. It was ugly. Meanwhile, in Indianapolis, the Colts and the Bengals got it on. You may have seen that game. Greg Erickson finds Flipper Anderson early on, 16 yards. That's a quick 7, and the Colts are up on the Bengals. Cincinnati can't win, can they? Well, maybe if they get some help, they might. That snap goes over Erickson's head. There's a safety right there. So they'll take the break any way they can get it. Get on to the fourth quarter. Jim Harbaugh to Flipper Anderson. He'll make it happen. Look at Flipper. I can't believe that guy's still playing and doing it the way he is. Colts are down by 2, trying to get it done. And look at this. To Floyd Turner, we go to overtime. That game's tied up at 21 apiece. The Bengals living the dream. Doug Belfry, 47 yards. Can't believe it. The Bengals win the opener, 24-21. Shula, what are you doing? It was only one win. He thinks he won the Super Bowl. And they'll take it any way they can get it. For the Bengals, their first win in September since 1992. The Colts suffer their first loss to the Bengals since 1987.
The Steelers began the day with Super Bowl aspirations. They also began the day with Rod Woodson and Neil O'Donnell. Maybe we need to change their nickname to the Men of Aluminum Foil, as injuries took center stage in this one. Bill Cowher, he had no idea what was ahead of him when he took the field today. First quarter, the nice little swing pass to Barry Sanders. A short pickup, but that's not the big deal on the play. We'll get to that in a second. Impressive first half for the NFL rushing leader. 11 rushes, 66 yards for Barry, but the problem, all-pro corner Rod Woodson out with a torn ACL. He won't be back at all this season. Second quarter, Scott Mitchell to Perriman in the back of the end zone. Detroit up 10-6 at the break. Third quarter, Steelers start to roll. Bam Morris off tackle, 5 yards. Yes. 13-10 Pittsburgh. Ouch. Who dresses that kid? Anyway, fourth quarter, more Bam, his second TD over the top from a yard out. Pittsburgh up 20-10. Then the injuries come back. Neil O'Donnell sandwiched by a pack of Lions. Broken finger. He's done. So backup Mike Tomaszak comes in. Booyah! The big stick. He had to leave the game, but he would return. Fourth quarter, meanwhile, the Lions just won't go away. Mitchell to Herman Moore from 27 yards, but Pittsburgh gets the win on the Norm Johnson 31-yard field goal. 23-20, the final. Bill, finally something to smile about. I bet he wasn't smiling when he got back to the locker room. Look at the Lions. They're winless in Pittsburgh since 1955. Did they even have face masks back then? Let's move on. Let's head to Three Rivers and Kevin Harlan.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. Jerry Glanville, what a tremendous win to begin the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's a crime anybody had to lose. Two good football teams fought hard, played hard, well coached, got after it. Somebody had to lose and went down to the last play with a field goal.
A lot of heroes, and Pam Oliver standing by with 2 of them. Pam?
That's right. I'm the lucky one today. Let's talk to Norm Johnson first of all. With everything you've been through, you come in here, you're the hero of the day.
Oh, I'm not the hero. Hats off to my teammates. We overcame some injuries. They just got me in position at the end. I mean, it was a great drive by the offense, and our team really battled today and overcame a lot of adversity. And I was just fortunate enough to have the opportunity at the end to put some more points on the board.
Congratulations. I'm sure we'll see more from you. Let's move over now to Mike Tomczak. How you feeling, first of all?
Well, not as good as I did at the start of the game, but it's a physical sport, and I'm just very fortunate to come out with a victory today.
What happened on that one particular play where you just got the stew knocked out of you?
Well, obviously, I'm a marked man when I have the ball in my hands, so I didn't see the guy coming off the backside, and I was looking downfield, and that's when I got cold cocked pretty good.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike. Okay. Appreciate you joining us. Let's go upstairs.
All right, Pam, thank you very much. They lost the starting quarterback, Neil O'Donnell. It was a costly game injury-wise for the Steelers today.
I think the strength that we saw was Detroit switching to the 4-3. They could pressure him all the time. Detroit also did a good job on the 2 outside linebackers, all world guys for the Steelers. But the Steelers found a way to do it when they were injured and they were hurt.
It was an exhilarating game in front of a packed house here at Three Rivers Stadium. 23-20 the Steelers. Let's go back to the studio.
All right, thanks, guys. And you know Pittsburgh was thinking Super Bowl this year. Let's face it, winning a Super Bowl with Neil O'Donnell is questionable. Winning one with Mike Tomczak is doubtful. And winning one without Rod Woodson is impossible.
Yeah, I mean, Rod's not only the playmaker, but he's a leader, and he's one of those guys who this franchise is built around, and he happens to be the best corner in the league right now.
Speaking of teams in need of a game breaker, the Cardinals and Skins hooked up an RFK. Norv Turner drafted Heath Shuler, believing that he was the next Troy Aikman. Shuler's just trying to get the fans off his back and prove that he was not a wasted draft pick. He's got a lot of work to do, unfortunately. Turner looking for that big win today. Buddy Ryan doesn't want to let it happen. Let's see exactly what did happen. I found the next Michael Irvin. It's this guy, Michael Westbrook. End around. This guy will go for daylight. 58 yards. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, and he can get it done. He's into the end zone. Redskins up on Buddy, 10-0 early on. Dave Craig, finally a quarterback that won't go brain dead for Buddy. He makes the right decision. He finds Oscar McBride, 10-7. The game right there. Shuler is out of action. Next Troy Aikman. How about the next Jason Garrett? He has a bad shoulder and they are a mess. Who cares? Gus Frerotte comes in. He's got a bomb up top to Leslie Shepard. 73 yards. Good night now. 20-7. The Skins were up in that game. But Frerotte knows that he's got a chance to play football if he keeps making the plays. The fans love Gus. He's back to pass. He finds Scott Galbraith wide open, and the Skins end up whacking Arizona 27-7. What a mess for Buddy Ryan to lose that game. Let's see what happened. The vaunted Cardinal defense allowed 463 yards. That is a mess. Redskins get their first win versus a divisional opponent since September of 1993. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, Ray Rhodes and the Eagles taking on the Buccaneers. Ricky Watters coming back home. He wants the rock. Give it to me now. No way Philadelphia can lose this game, right? Well, nobody told that to Trent Dilfer. He's got a favorite target, Horace Copeland. That one measured 64 yards. Tampa Bay's looking to pull the shocker. They're up early on, 7-3. Dilfer's smart. He spreads the wealth around. This one goes to Jackie Harris into the end zone, 12 yards. Tampa's up 14-6. There is no way Sam Wyche is going to win this game, right? Absolutely not. Eric Rett found his shoulder pads. He busted right up the gut. Tampa 21, Philadelphia 6. This is unbelievable. It's a final, and they are screaming in Philadelphia already. Look at Tampa Bay's defense. 5 sacks after getting only 20 last year. The Philadelphia Eagles have a devastating loss. He ripped up his knee. He is done for the season.
And here are some other injuries. You know, at this time of year, coaches are cringing when they see the list so long.
And welcome back to the show, everybody. Some nervous times on the sidelines as coaches were watching players drop like flies.
But that wasn't the only emotion happening on the field. We saw some really weird plays and some stranger reactions.
And that brings us to the most bizarre thing we saw all day. It's time for What the Was he thinking?
All right, here's the scenario. You're the Philadelphia Eagles. You've got a new coach, a new offense, and what most of us thought was a new tough winning attitude.
You start the season at home, and you're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So what happens? You go out and get worked. Now here's losing quarterback Randall Cunningham, obviously overcome by the devastation of the loss. So much so that he poses for a picture with winning quarterback Trent Dilfer. Randall, what the were you thinking?
I got to agree with you on that one, Jim. Plain strange. I mean, it was strange, but I do want you to know that we did have a close second here in the FX newsroom, and that was David Shula's whole Pop Warner routine after the Bengals down the Colts today.
Well, we're going to take a closer look at the Bucs win over Philadelphia, and for that, we are going to take you to cyberspace.
That's right. While Jim and I bring you most of the information, for certain things we've got to go to our resident know-it-all. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to welcome to our show our favorite know-it-all and statistical wizard, Simon the Geek.
Good evening, gentlemen, and I hope this won't take long as I'm preparing my new CD-ROM, everything that has ever happened on any football field anywhere.
Well, Geek, I'm sure that will be a real hot seller. But what do you think of the Eagles losing to the Bucs?
I don't think anything of it. I just look at the stats because they don't lie. Let's compare the rookie Trent Dilfer to the veteran Randall Cunningham. While their final yardage isn't that far apart, you see how much more efficient Dilfer was with his passes. Only 11 completions, but he throws for over 200 yards. 155 of those yards went to Horace Copeland. But as any football expert will tell you, for young quarterbacks, having a receiver on your team that you know you can go to is what will make success come sooner.
So, Geek, do you think we'll see a big year from Trent Dilfer?
I don't predict anything involving human emotion, but what I will say is that Sam Weish has his future as a head coach riding squarely on the shoulders of Mr. Dilfer. So if Dilfer continues to put up stats like the ones he did today, then he'll never have to worry about his car being washed because Weish will be over every Monday to take care of that for him. It'll be a Weish wash.
All right, Geek, we want to get your thoughts on tomorrow night's game between the Cowboys and the Giants.
It's actually quite simple. Cowboys, Giants, Monday night can only mean victory for Dallas. Dating back to 1971, the Cowboys have won all 4 of their Monday night games against the Giants. Dallas also possesses the best opening day record in the NFL, winning over 75% of those contests. On an individual basis, Emmitt Smith has not lost an opening day game since he has been in the league. Now, some of you geek wannabes might say, wait a minute, Washington beat Dallas in 1993. You're right, but don't blow your mainframe. Emmitt did not play in that game due to contractual difficulties.
All right, Geek, thanks for the input. We'll be watching that closely. And the Geek will be with us each and every week with his informative look at the NFL.
Earlier, we gave you the story from Soldier Field where Minnesota visited Chicago. But for one member of the Vikings, football is just a small part of his life.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Defensive tackle Ezra Tuaolo is a gargantuan man with a voice as sweet as sugar. We caught up with this aspiring vocalist at Paisley Park Recording Studios this week, where he's working on a new project.
He said, no, I'm a defensive lineman.
Pass is picked off. Ezra Tuaolo.
I think I first began to sing, my mom made me sing in church.
Ezra. Ezra.
Please don't stop me.
Okay, he's on 1.
My mom encouraged me.
You have to remember to sing to somebody.
And it's going crazy. What do I do? Tell me what can I say? Well, come on, baby, help me through this maze. My life is in a daze because I'm in love with you.
Well, when I was a rookie, I got drafted by Green Bay. I sing the anthem at that game. It was incredible. I mean, it just gives you that incredible feeling, that patriotic feeling. We did Down at the Fine Line. It was a benefit concert for sharing and carrying hands with another artist called, a recording artist. Her name is Javita Steels.
For you, I'll do my best. Stand by you like a tree.
This football player, this big dude, you know, and he sings, and it's like, wow. And it feels good to make somebody smile, somebody happy and stuff. You know, what I'd like to do in the future with my music is, like any struggling, I guess, music artist would want, is to be noticed and be seen and be discovered. Well, thank you very much.
Dude has some pipes. Yeah, I mean, plenty of pro athletes want to be singers or rap stars, but he's really got the talent to get it done.
Yeah, but I don't think Dennis Green is going to allow him to schedule any concerts on Sundays for a while because he's really become a big part of the Vikings defense.
Well, week 1 is big, but that's not all that was going on.
That's right. We've got tennis action from the U.S. Open. Steffi, her personal life, it's a mess, but on the court, it's all business for the #1 seed. And the good old boys were smoking down at Darlington.
And as we go to break, here is a look at the new college football top 25. Notre Dame is just hanging on after yesterday's choke against the juggernaut that is Northwestern. We'll be back.
Welcome back to the show. Time to talk tennis. While Andre Agassi has become the game's poster child in the last few months, Pete Sampras continues to work his way back from a disappointing summer. Today, the 3rd round of the U.S. Open, Pete facing Aussie Mark Philippoussis, ready to take control of things in New York, New York. Even though he's the 2nd seed, there's Philippoussis, no seed, but anybody's dangerous in a major. First set, Philippoussis wins 7-6, but finally Pete gets things going. His serve, and watch the nice forehand winner. Never going to get it. 3rd set, Sampras shows the backhand. He can go front, back, complete game by Pete. Oh, you can't rush the net on that guy. Match point, Sampras, one of his 27 aces. He eliminates Philippoussis. Let's see some more results. Besides Sampras, Thomas Muster advances, so does Chang, Courier, and Todd Martin. Martin is the man that Pete will face off with next. Meanwhile, on the women's side, Steffi Graf in action. Hey, kid, I guess that's what happens when you mix your tennis balls with toxic waste. Anyway, Graf taking on teen sensation Shonda Rubin with smoking forehand. Graf won the first set 6-2. Match point, Shonda comes up just a little bit short. She'll grow into that shot, trust me. Graf wins 6-2, a 6-2. That's not the big story, though. Mary Jo Fernandez knocks off the defending champ Arantxa Sanchez Vicario in 3 sets.
And time to talk a little baseball, where the race for the American League wild card is going right down to the wire. Tonight at the ballpark in Arlington, it was the Rangers and the Royals getting after it. Let's see what happened. We go to the scoreboard, give it to KC over Texas. 8-5 the final there. Gary Gaetti's out of his mind. 3-run shot breaks a 5-5 tie. Here's how the wild card shapes up. And you know what? The wild card's not only for rotisserie geeks. This is great. Kansas City, Seattle tied on top. Texas is still alive. Yankees, Milwaukee, Oakland, all very much in the chase right now. Meanwhile, over in the National League, the Dodgers looking to get it together. Let's see how they fared against the Montreal Expos. Go to the 8th inning. Delino to Shields with Sox pulled up, finally getting it together. 2 men aboard. There's a base knock. That makes it 6-3. LA Dodgers have the win in the 8th. If only they could get some help from their bullpen. Todd Worrell is a beast. You know he'll shut the door right there. Save number 26. Ramon Martinez gets the win. He has 14 victories on the season, and he has won 7 of his last games. In the National League West, there's your final. We'll check out the National League Western standings. We've got ourselves a race. Rockies, Dodgers. First and second, Dodgers a half game out. Padres 3.5 back. The Giants are $6 back in the NL West.
Move on now to a little bit of golf, and most of the big names on the PGA Tour are done for the season, so that opens the door for guys like Scott Hoch. He was your leader going into today's final round of the Greater Milwaukee Open, played at, of course, the beautiful Deer Park course in Milwaukee. It's beautiful, and it's a small world after all also. Scott Hoch out of the bunker. Trust me, this one counts. A little radar love. Yeah. He shot a 6-under par 65 today. Joe Acosta Jr. tried to make a little run. Nabs the birdie on 17. He finished tied for 3rd overall at 10 under, but Scott Hoch held tough. The putt on 18, he nails it. He also is your winner at 15 under par. He takes home $180 grand. There's the rest of your results. Dawson was second. Sluman and Gallagher and Acosta round out your top 6. The seniors were in Park City, Utah today. Tony Jacklin came from 3 strokes behind to win the Franklin Quest Seniors Tourney, and the ladies were in Springfield, Illinois for the LPGA State Farm Classic. Hall of Famer Betsy King shares the lead with rookie Emily Klein after 2 rounds.
All right, Kev, thanks. A wild one on the NASCAR circuit, the Southern 500. Michael Waltrip in his Pontiac around the curve, off to a pretty good start until this. He spins out of control. He rebounds. He takes 5th place overall. Bill Elliott, same problem. He takes 4 cars out with him as he goes around the curve. Elliott not as fortunate as Waltrip. He is out of the race after lap 251. Meanwhile,
had the wind knocked out.
Checking it all out, he was all right. It looked a lot worse than it actually was. Checking it out, Jeff Gordon, as always, is the guy to beat. He ends up with the checkered flag. He is followed by Dale Earnhardt, and Jeff Gordon is still the overall leader on the NASCAR circuit. This guy's 24 years old. He has tremendous game. Very confident he's getting it done. And Kev, I know NASCAR's your life.
He's a stud. I'm wondering where my man Hut Strickland was. You know,
the HUD man. Check it out. Check him out on the scoreboard. Now, moving along, we've heard from a lot of people tonight, but there are 4 guys with plenty to say coming up next.
That's right. Our buddies from Fox NFL Sunday, James Brown, Terry Bradshaw, Jimmy Johnson, and Howie Long will offer their thoughts on the day when we come back. End of week 1 means it's time to gear up for week 2. Here's a look at the early line for next Sunday's NFL action.
Don't forget to start your Sunday with the pregame guys on Fox. JB, Terry, Jimmy, and Howie offer their insights on week 2 next Sunday.
And speaking of that fine group of gentlemen, it's time for us to turn things over to them to get their final thoughts on today's happenings in the NFL. JB, take it away.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. And it was indeed an exciting opening day of regular season action in the NFL. And you know what? Not a disappointing day at all unless you happen to be Philadelphia or Arizona fans. Washington looked good today, Jimmy.
Well, I think Norv Turner really did an outstanding job of putting some players together, bringing in Terry Allen as a free agent. He rushed for 131 yards today. First Redskin back to rush for over 100 yards since 1989. Backup quarterback Gus Frerotte comes in, throws for a couple of touchdowns. Outstanding coaching job against an outstanding Arizona defense.
Disappointing day in Philadelphia. Ricky Watters debuted, did not have a good day running the ball or catching the ball. He's a great receiver, I believe. Charlie Garner needs to play more. They move the ball up and down the field, could not get the ball in the green zone, as they call it, in Philadelphia.
You know, I especially like the fact that today we saw Tampa, we saw Atlanta, we saw Chicago, we saw Washington, 4 teams. We even saw the St. Louis Rams, 5 teams that came up and played really strong, hard-nosed football today. And hats off to the guys in Carolina Panthers. Don Capers, outstanding job. They had a chance to go into and win this football game, going for the 2 points, but they jump off sides, had to settle for the extra point. But expansion teams, great job today.
You know, you guys really played the part of clairvoyance today. I mean, heavens, champion at the bit. They were ready to roll them. All right, TV is looking at me impressively. I know what that looks is. Hey, let's take it back to FX and Kevin and Jim.
Thanks, guys. My final thought is more of my personal amazement with the Bengals' ability to shut down Marshall Faulk. Last season, they held Faulk to 28 yards rushing. On 16 carries today, they turn around, they do it again, holding him to 49 yards on 19 carries. Certain teams just seem to have certain players' numbers.
If there is one final blast I'd have, it goes back to the Eagles. New coach, new running back, new offensive system. Same sorry, underachieving Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah. Well, that's it for us. Definitely join us next Sunday. We'll see you. Until then, I'm Kevin Frazier.
And I'm Jim Rome. We'll see you next week.